Yeah, it's mindset cafe, we all about that mindset. Gotta stay focused, never settle for less. It's all in your head, how you think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes, only positive
What
thoughts.
is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy Devin, and today I'm honored to have this guest on the show. I'm bringing on Shannon Russell. She is an amazing business owner. She is a coach, and she is honestly just another powerhouse that is really taking over everything by storm. So I want to make sure that she gives her story because she's going to be able to, really talk about it way better than I am. But Shannon, thank you so much for taking on the time to drop some knowledge for the Mindset Cafe. And one thing that's so cool is we just talked beforehand that, I'm in the franchise space, just got into it, and you are a franchisee and, you grew it and actually sold your location. So I'm really excited to dive into that as well. But thank you so much for taking the time on to come on the show today.
Oh, I'm excited. Thanks so much for having me, Devin. This is going to be great.
So I know, you're a business and transition coach and everything like that, but I like to rewind and let's start with your childhood, right? What was your childhood like? What did your parents do? What was that backstory?
Ooh, good question. My parents were very blue collar. My dad, they both got married around 18, didn't go to college. My dad started working for the electric company and did that until retirement, one job his entire life. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom and then a secretary for the rest of her career. Yeah, so that was that. I was the first in my family to go to college.
Okay. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have one sister who's younger and she works at a bank. So yeah, very 9 to 5.
Okay. So, what was that like then? I mean, you becoming an entrepreneur, you going that route. So did you go to college? I mean, you said you were the first to go to college, right?
Yes, yes.
So you went to college. What was your major in?
Communications, broadcast communications and film. So yeah, I was the black sheep of the family, the first to even leave our town. And I left the state and went 8 hours away. And yeah, just always wanted to work in television.
Okay. So what was that driver, that I guess desire? Why did you want to work in television?
You know what? I was a TV kid, like growing up in the 80s, 90s. It was just, I watched TV all the time. I wanted to be in the TV screen. If I wasn't on, I wanted to be behind the scenes. And I don't know, I just always felt like I was a little eccentric compared to the rest of my family that, like I said, was very stay home, do this. Like, this is, you just stay in your town. And I just wanted to get out. I was obsessed with California and I had grown up on the East Coast in New Jersey and just wanted to move over there and check out everything Hollywood had to offer.
You had that desire of that, seeing what Hollywood looks like from afar. What was your take once you actually saw Hollywood up close?
You know what? I loved it. It was my dream come true. And yeah, my parents actually brought me as my senior year in high school graduation gift to vacation out there. So that was my first time and I loved it. And then when I moved out there, it was just surreal. It was incredible. And I lived there for 10 years.
Oh wow, nice. I mean, I'm in Los Angeles, so the funny
Oh,
thing is people love, you know, whenever I talk to someone that's not from California or even from Los Angeles, they're like, I want to come out to Hollywood and see, Santa Monica and Venice Beach. And I'm like, it's not like, don't set your hopes too high. Like it's fun. It's amazing. And there's so many beautiful sights, but also like it's a little bit down and dirty. There is a homeless like epidemic that's happening on the streets too. So just be fair, forewarned of that kind of thing. But I mean, you got into TV and into, producing, I believe, right?
yep. Yeah.
And so that's exciting. 'Cause I mean, that's something, it's a tough industry. And, what was your career like? Why did you, or how was that you excelling in that industry? And then why did you leave the industry?
Mm. Well, I started my career at MTV in New York City. Was very into music, and it was just a perfect fit. And then I ended up in Los Angeles and worked in entertainment, reality, all of that. So, kind of got my taste of every kind of television, and absolutely loved it. It was amazing, my dream job. But As you know from being in Los Angeles, it's a hard city, and especially in entertainment, you're working really long hours, you're traveling, your life is not your own. I miss so many friends' weddings and family obligations, and loving it all, but it was just a fast-paced career. And so when I had my first son, I was in Los Angeles, and we were the first of our friends to have kids, and that just shifted everything. And everyone just kind of, it felt like to me, disappeared because they were still going out 7 nights a week and we couldn't go out 7 nights a week. So everything just started shifting, and we ended up back on the East Coast working in Manhattan. And I was about to have my second son, and I just had this epiphany of like, I'm over the celebrity, over the fast pace. I need to figure out what's next for my life and start a second act so I can at least be around my kids and be a little bit more present.
No, I love that. And I've never been to Manhattan, but is it, from what I understand, it's still a fast-paced area, correct?
It is, but so I lived in Manhattan when I was right out of college, so fast paced living in the city. But going back, in my 30s with two little kids, I was living in the suburbs in New Jersey. So if you are kind of like an adult, a lot of people live in the suburbs. So you go in, you do your work, and then you get on a bus or train to go back. So it was a much different experience than in my early 20s. But yeah, definitely fast paced. I'm a LA girl way more than a New York girl.
Okay, I got it. I mean, that's so. What was the? I mean, it's so interesting because this before getting into the entrepreneurship and everything like that, like you have your son, and so now there's this mindset shift that kind of happens too. I mean, I have a 3-year-old daughter right now, and we actually have one on the way. And
Yes.
being an entrepreneur or being a working professional, right? You all of a sudden start to view things a little bit differently, or you have a different kind of drive. So what was that mindset shift going from going out, and being in the TV industry to all of a sudden, hey, I'm a mom?
Yeah, it was a big, big shift. And being in LA, especially, it was not good for me. It was like I definitely suffered from some postpartum depression there, and just realizing, like, wow, my life is not my own. And it just hit me really hard. So we ended up back on the East Coast, closer to my family for that extra support. And yeah, it just shifted where, especially when I was about to have my second son, I was around 8 months pregnant with him. And so I had a 3-year-old and a newborn on the way, or little one on the way. And I just had this moment where I was like, you know what? I can check the box on that first act because I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish since I was 5 years old, and I did it. So I'm going to look at it like I'm not grieving that career. I want a new adventure, and I want to be present for the kids, and I want to still work because I'm a creative, and I want to figure out what else I can do. And I shifted my mindset and kind of ignored my husband and my friends who were like so shocked I was making this change because they were all in the industry and kind of had interventions with me. And I was like, no, I've got this. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm excited for what's next. So it was just that shift of, I'm more than just this title, and I'm going to take that experience with me. And also, I'm always a producer. I can go produce again tomorrow. And I think that made me feel a little bit less pressure and stress too, as I was trying to figure out what my next leap would be.
No, yeah. So you said your friends and your husband are in the industry. Is your husband still in the industry?
He is. Yep. And a lot of my friends still are too. Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what was that conversation with your husband? Because obviously you guys have your family income and so forth, but being an entrepreneur, as we transition to this
Mhm.
next step, in I already know because me and my wife have had similar talks, but like, what was that transition for you guys like? You kind of mentioned that there's some interventions and stuff, but when you really let them know that, hey, I want to do this, and you started to go that route, what was that like?
What was that like? Yeah. So what I did was I knew that we couldn't afford to be a one income household. We had a new house and there was just a lot going on. And so I did what I thought I needed to do. I got a 9 to 5 job at a local like ad agency thinking, oh, production, advertising, it's similar. And it was creative and toxic and the most horrible owner of the company. So I was like, this is not for me, but I sucked it up and I did it for maybe 6 months or more just to bring that income in. I was like going through different things. I was going for my master's at night because that's the responsible thing to do. I'll become a teacher. I was grasping at straws until one day I was sitting in my car at lunch, like depressed because I hated this job. And I listened to a podcast and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go the entrepreneur route. I'm going to produce my own life. I know I can do it. And that's where everything shifted. And I started saying, the skills I did in my first act in production, I can do to build a business. I can take this idea and build it and make it a success. And that's when I decided to buy my first franchise and go into that as an entrepreneur.
So let's dive into that. So why did you decide to go into a franchise? And this is almost like a selfish question of me, because being a franchisor and bringing on franchisees, everyone has different reasons, but it always interests me too, because before we launched our franchise, before we opened our gym, like I was actually going to buy into a franchise, right?
Ooh, okay.
And so I don't think that there's a right way to do it, whether you start your own business or you do a franchise. There's pros and cons to both.
Yes.
But what was your reasoning for wanting to go into a franchise versus just do something on your own?
Well, I had an idea for a business. I was watching my 3-year-old, and you might be able to relate, just playing and building and taking blocks and taking Legos. And he was just in the zone. And I was like, there's something to this. So I started researching what I could do with children's kind of STEM education. And in my research of building my own business, I found a franchise that was doing exactly what I wanted to do. And as a first-time business owner, I was like, a franchise to me is kind of a business in a box, right? You get the direction, you get the mentorship, you get other franchisees, you get the marketing materials, whatever it is, it's all there for you. And so it was a no-brainer. I just felt like that was the way to get my foot in, and it was the best decision I ever made. I'm very pro franchise. When you find one that's really for you. And yeah, it was fantastic. I learned so much within 2 years. I was in the top 3 of the, most achieving franchisees in the organization. And I felt good about myself. I felt like I did it. I actually started something new, and then I wanted to start more businesses because I saw that success happening.
No, that's so awesome. And I think the reason I asked like what interested you, because a lot of people that I talk to, they're worried about paying a royalty or paying, to essentially get that business in the box, right? And I don't know how you feel about it, but I let them know. I was like, it's almost like you're getting a team along with the business model. You're getting you're getting coaches along with the business model. I was like, I've paid more in our advisors, our mentors and stuff along the lifetime of our business, launching the franchise. I was like, I've spent, 6 figures with our team just to learn essentially how to do things, right? And I was like, you get all of that knowledge essentially that was learned and paid for essentially in small increments, and so I think, that's just one of the reasons I think it, but you already are living proof that you can take it, you can scale it, and you did amazing, right? So why did you end up wanting to sell the business?
Well, about 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years into my franchise, it was bigger than me. I had a team, I had a director, and I was trying to step back because I still wanted to be that present mom. And a lot of my customers started asking me, well, how did you get into this if you were a television producer? And it sparked that conversation. And I said, you know what? There's a need, especially for women who now have young kids and don't feel like their work aligns with them. And they need help getting unstuck and figuring out their next step and building a business of their own. So I started my coaching business maybe 4 or 5 years into my franchise. And I was trying to do both. Even though I had a big team, I was very close to my team, and my director became one of my best friends. So as much as I tried to step out of it, I kept getting pulled back into the franchise. And finally, I was like, you know what? I think my heart, again, I feel like I served children and families in my community, and I wanted something else. So I started looking to sell it because it was so successful. I didn't want to close it. And so I started working with a broker, found buyers, and now I sold just this last year, and it's booming and doing amazing with new owners. So my baby lives just with someone else now, and I can concentrate on my career and business coaching clients. That is my new love.
No, that's so amazing. And sometimes, you have like this now essentially kind of like a third act, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
And sometimes they're similar, right? So they're both entrepreneurial, but sometimes they're different, TV producer to entrepreneur, but there's no right way to do things. And I think that you made a courageous step, and a step that also a lot of business owners can almost put a chokehold on their business because they don't want to let go when they found essentially a new love or a new passion, right? And so it
Yeah.
starts to make the business, die, because they're not willing to give the effort and attention it needs for, like, the team, whatever it may be, and they're really focused on the new thing, like, you said, your business coaching. So sometimes taking that step in selling isn't a loss or isn't a negative. Like, that's actually a brave thing to do, because the business is being a positive impact on the community. And if you could only give half your attention, or if you would have closed it, then again, that's not why you opened in the first place. So you still kind of fed the reason why you opened in the first place, and did the brave thing. So I do commend you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I started realizing with a franchise, as you know, if you get to the end of your contract and you don't renew, it's kind of like a car lease, right? You just close shop. And I didn't want to do that. And I also, like you said, I realized my heart wasn't in it and that I could be making so much more money if I had the energy, but I didn't. So I'm like, let me give this to someone new who wants to be a first-time entrepreneur as well, and they can grow this. And then I can take the money I sold it for and build my coaching business even more.
No,
So it was a
definitely.
win-win.
And what's funny about that is, like, being on the franchisor side of things, I learned a lot about what I would have bought into and how they were running it. And I'm glad I didn't buy into it. The one, I'm not going to mention names that I was going to buy into, but I know all the small fine print now. And
Yeah.
I see why their numbers fluctuate the way they do. But like you said, the car lease thing, that's actually pretty much a handshake deal. You can charge to renew, or you can just be like, look, you're top 3, like, you're good. But,
Yeah.
and so that there's all these little weird caveats of franchising that I didn't know before getting into having to write, with the attorneys and write an FDD and build out all the manuals and all that kind of stuff. So it's crazy. But, I want to dive into your coaching and stuff. So now with you coaching, who's your clients? Like, who are you trying to target?
Women in, I don't want to say midlife, but in 30s, 40s, who have a family and just realize that their hours of their job just doesn't really fit them anymore, and they want to start a business. And so I work with them to say, okay, I have this experience from my first act. I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to take it and create a business that is fulfilling and flexible and financially lucrative using my experience.
So are you helping them start a business from scratch, or are you helping them find a franchise that works for them? Or what is your process for them going from employee to, a business owner?
Mhm. I really work with that. I work with some clients to help them with their exit strategy, to leave that 9 to 5 job without burning a bridge and make sure they're financially stable, and then launch their business. And then there's other clients who come to me with a business idea that they've already kind of started, and I help them scale. And then I'm waiting for the clients who want to come to me and open a franchise, because I am so pro franchise. So if I get anyone, I will pass them along to you, because I think I think it really is such a great start. But I've yet to, actually, I shouldn't say that. I've been helping a lot of my past franchisees who want to get out of that franchise. I'm helping them figure out their exit plan. But I would love other people who are interested in franchising to come to me too, because I think it's a great option.
And no, I mean, there's so many different ways. And again, like, there's no right way to do it.
No.
But the reason I was asking, is because with the industry that you're in, being a coach and stuff, I know some coaches become almost like franchise brokers in a sense. And I was just wondering if that's what you were kind of doing, or if you were, helping them start and scale. Because I mean, even though you're a franchisee, like, you're still a business owner. Like, you built a team, you did all those things. Like, you could have the blueprint. This is what I like to tell people when they're coming onto our franchises. My goal is not to give you every answer, right? My goal is to give you the information, and enough information where you come up with the answer, and then me give you, yes, there you go, you got it right. And so I want you to be a business owner, right? And so you make those decisions, and that's exactly what you did. And so all the things that you're talking about, scaling, growing teams, building a culture, that's all something that you can't necessarily write an informational thing about and someone just follow it. Someone actually has to be in there and adapt to the culture, the community that is in front of them.
And I agree. And when you start a franchise or any business, you want to be in there working in my opinion, day to
Mhm.
day to learn that business inside and out. So then you can expand and hire your teams. But I think when some people come into a business and they just want it to be turnkey and they're really hands off, they end up hurting themselves because they don't understand all those aspects.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even for us, like that's one of the caveats is that our business technically is turnkey, but for our first franchisees, like we want them to have some kind of involvement, like not just be complete hands off. Right.
Yeah.
And especially being in the fitness industry, just like with Snapology, like you're with, STEM with kids and everything like that. Like there's a different kind of culture than running a Subway. Right. And
Exactly.
so there has to be for us, like, one of our core values is to have a positive impact on as many lives as we can while we can.
Mm,
And if that's not why you're getting into the business, then I'm sorry, like that's you can't. You're just not going to be one of our first franchisees. Like there's plenty of other business models, right?
yeah.
And so that's just how we view things. And it sounds like that's one of the cool things you're doing with your coaching is you're helping women that are trying to take that next step, and you're doing it because you have gone along that path and you've seen the fulfillment, you've seen the success, you've seen what it can do for your family life, and you
Yeah.
want to impact others and do so as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And give them the wings and show them that there's not just one revenue stream. Like for me, I speak on stages, that's a revenue stream. I have a book coming out, that's a revenue stream. There's just other ways in your business that you can scale and do so while you're facing your priorities and your non-negotiables, right? If you want to be home with the kids more, build a business around that and it is possible. So yeah, I just want to be that accountability partner and, person that's taking them from where they are to where they want to be.
No, that's awesome. So you said you're writing a book. I actually just launched one in January. So what's your book about?
Woo! Congratulations. Mine comes
Thank you.
out May 7th. It's called Start Your Second Act: How to Change Careers, Build a Business, and Create Your Best Life.
Okay, you said May 2nd?
May 7th. Yeah.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a note of it.
Thanks.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
interested. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's so you speak on stages and you do everything. So what is the book gonna act as like a lead magnet for your coaching? Is what does the book do for you?
Yeah, the book is just an extension of my coaching. Yeah, it's a little bit of my transition story, examples from other women, and then how you can make that transition really successfully. So it will be reaching people that don't necessarily work with me one-on-one, and then also be something that I can sell from the stage and talk about on my podcast. And yeah, just get me out there more to impact more lives. Kind of like your motto, right? It's just impacting people, giving them the tools and inspiration to get unstuck, make that leap and feel more fulfilled in life.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
After this, I'll tell you some little things that I threw into my book that maybe might give you some ideas, but we'll keep it
Yes.
a secret between us.
Okay, I love that. I'm
Uh,
excited.
so you said you have a podcast as well. On your podcast, it's I'm assuming an extension as well as from your coaching. What kind of things do you teach on there to get? I mean, obviously I'm assuming it's with business and so forth, but is it more how to run the business? Is it more how to exit? Like what is your podcast?
It started as it's called Second Act Success, like my business. So it's really just inspiring stories of women who have made that transition because I wanted listeners to hear if she can do it, I can do it. Not just me, but all of these other women. So
Mm,
that's where it started. And now in the last year or so, I've incorporated more solo episodes where I'm talking on different topics, branding, career assessments, how to give your notice and not burn a bridge, things like that. But the heart of the podcast is really these inspiring stories of all these other women who have made the change just to show you, like, if a teacher can become a jewelry maker, like you can do it too, just these really crazy different changes.
no, and I mean, I always love the, like the symbolism or like the analogies, and it just clicked for me the second acting between the TV producing
Yeah.
and I was like, that was clever, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's cool though, because like you just said, you can start anywhere and go anywhere. Like for example, my aunt, I didn't even know she was an entrepreneur, you know, for most of my life until I became an entrepreneur, and all of a sudden she was asking me questions, and I was like, wait, what do you do again, you know? And because I remember when growing up, she worked for like the Gap. I don't even know if that's a store anymore, but you know, the Gap, she was like a manager and stuff. But then all of a sudden she wasn't working for the Gap anymore. And what I didn't know was she started writing a blog, and it grew pretty big. And she actually launched that, and it became a influencer social media agency. And now it's an 8-figure company, and she's actually exiting that. And so it was like, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, you're like an entrepreneur. Like
Yeah.
I was like, that's so crazy. And now she has like a summer camp and all these other things. So it's like you can start anywhere and pivot anywhere. And that's what I love about this is in the Mindset Cafe is getting to know and understand like the mindset behind things. Like you had that mindset shift, you know, in realization that you didn't just have to do TV. You wanted to have, you know, do entrepreneur and be home a little bit more, have more time to spend with your family. Then you became an entrepreneur and you're like, well, I want to help other people do this too. And so there's these little mental shifts that we have, and you're that living proof that as long as you take action on them, they can be a reality for you too.
Yeah, I have a motto that I say, check all the boxes in life. Like we get one life to live. So if you can check the box on one thing that you're doing and start something else, like how fun is that to have this kind of goal list instead of a bucket list, right? Just this goal list of things you want to do and you can check it off and go to the next adventure.
No, definitely. So actually, I want to ask, you know, a random tangent question. You working in the TV industry and stuff, who was your favorite, or did you meet? I'm assuming you met celebrities and so forth.
Oh yeah.
Right. So who is your favorite celebrity after meeting them in person?
That's a good question. And there's so many. I have some that were not as exciting after I met them. But the one I would say, honestly, I always think was one of the nicest people is Henry Winkler from Happy Days, like way back when. The
Yeah.
Fonz, you know, like he just came in and everyone was in love with him on my set. Like it was just, he was one of the nicest guys, shook everyone's hand. And yeah, and that wasn't someone I aspired to meet, but when you did, he just really took my breath away about how lovely he was.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know the Happy Days like that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So who is one celebrity that you wish you would have got to meet?
Oh, come on. Oprah. She was like,
Okay.
I mean, she's like everything. I always say, like, if I went back into production, it would be if she called. Like, I just feel like she's my epitome of everything. So yeah, she's the one that I was very close to getting a second interview to work with her in Chicago, and then it didn't go through, and I'll never forget that. I was very upset.
No, that's awesome. So one last question I'd like to ask is, and I will preface this by saying it is not a tombstone. As many times I tell it to people, I still get tombstone answers. This
Oh.
is this is the Shannon legacy wall, right? And on this legacy wall, it could be any message, you know, short or long, that you've learned along your life's journey that you would leave for the up and coming generations.
Mm. Keep going, give yourself grace, and it will all work out.
Okay. Explain it a little bit.
Just that I think you grow up and you have all these doubts and people tell you, "Oh, you can't do that. You're dreaming too big. Oh, just stay in your lane," you know, all of that. Um, and I think thinking out of the box and just keeping going on your path and giving yourself grace along the way, because there's going to be a lot of hard times. And it's easier to stay in your lane and stay kind of stuck where you are, even if you're not happy. But give yourself that grace, keep going, and you're going to accomplish your goal at the end if you just keep going.
No, that's awesome. I like to tell people you can't fail if you never give up, right?
Yes. That's a good
And
one.
so with that, did you have a lot of people telling you to stay in your lane before you became a TV producer, when you went to launch your, you know, the franchise, and then when you went to launch the coaching?
Yeah, definitely in the beginning. I mean, just the fact that I was in my town that no one seemed to ever leave. My ideas were just way out of the box for my family, but I had the most supportive family. So my parents were like, all right, we're going to follow you. Whatever you want to do, we'll let you do. And they just were so incredible. So it's all thanks to them that I even left my town. But there were so many naysayers, friends in school, friends in college, just I always was just thinking a little too far out of reach. And some people just thought that was like, why not just go down this nice, safe path? And then the franchise, definitely, because that was, leaving a really big income and kind of high profile job to start a business in my town. And then the coaching business, I think by that point, everyone knew that I just had a different wired brain and had these big aspirations and that I could accomplish them. So everyone was just like, all right, what's she up to next? So it was, yeah, a little easier with the coaching.
No, I mean, that's awesome. So I know, I mean, typically I don't go questions after the legacy wall, but now I'm kind of interested. So
Yeah, yeah.
on this little side tangent. So I apologize for continuing this, but I got to know, are you one of the people that used those naysayers as motivation, or did you just kind of, put it aside and like, it doesn't matter to me?
Yeah, I kind of just put them to the side. I've never been someone who's like super cares what other people think. Like and I tell my kids the same thing, like, don't be a sheep, follow, do your own thing. Like, don't listen to anyone else. So I think I kind of just put it out and just said, no, I'm going to put my head down and make it happen. And then I think there's something too, like every time you do, your mindset is just like exploding because you're like, it worked. Let me keep going. Let me try it again for the next challenge or adventure. So yeah, I feel like I just kind of put it aside and been like, okay, well, you do you, and I'm gonna go for this. And then it's funny when I left television and became a career coach many years later. Now I get so many, especially with everything that's happening in LA between the fires and strikes and the industry changing. So many people reach out to me now and they're like, "Can you help me? I'm ready to get out." And like
Mhm.
it's great to be able to help them. And it's like, oh, I was just like one of the first ones that left and actually did it. And now everyone's years later are like, okay, I need to get out too. Can you help? Which is nice.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the crazy thing too, like the strikes and all. Like, I have friends in the industry. I've
Yeah.
friends that are in the stunt industry. I have friends in the prop making industry, and the strikes. Like I I was almost like blown away. I was like, I didn't realize that watching them go and their livelihoods change. I was like, this is surreal. Like, I,
And then, yeah.
any way I could help, let me know. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what to tell you. So no, the reason I asked that question, if you use that as motivation, because there's two sides to the fence on that one. It's like some people put it to the side and it doesn't really do anything good or negative for them. And then you have other people that it shuts them down. And then you have that other crowd like myself that it's like, okay, like, I don't use it necessarily as motivation, but it's like I love when people tell me something's not going to work, because like
Mhm.
my mentality is always like, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, right?
Yeah.
So I promise, like, it's going to happen. Like I'm
Right.
there's if you don't have no way of telling yourself it's not going to happen, if you believe it, you can achieve it, then you can. The moment you tell yourself you can't achieve it is the moment it becomes impossible.
1,000%. That's great. And now you're taking names of those people so you can come back and be like, okay, look what I did.
Oh yeah, and that's the one. So some people do that, and
Yeah.
that's where I think it can have a weird negative effect on you too, because now you're doing it to prove to someone else
Yeah.
that you did it. For me, I just love the people saying that you can't do it and then achieving it, and then them seeing it. Maybe they don't see it, but that part doesn't do anything for me personally. It's just
Yeah,
look,
you're right.
but so where can people follow you and connect with you? I know you mentioned your podcast, social media. Where can people find you?
Secondactsuccess.co is my website, and that's got my book, my podcast, ways to work with me, lots of freebies about career transition. So everything's there. And I'm Second Act Success on all social as well.
Okay, awesome. Make sure you guys go follow her. And then the book comes out May 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So when that does come out, make sure you send me that link and I'll re-put it back into the links and everything like that. But guys, All of those links will be in the show notes as well. If you're watching on YouTube, then everything will be in the video description. Make sure you guys share this with a friend, someone that's working that, 9 to 5 or wanting to transition, and you keep hearing them talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, and they're too scared to take that step. Send them this episode. But Shannon, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your day and dropping so much knowledge for the Mindset Cafe.
Thanks for having me. This was such a fun conversation.
Of course. We'll definitely stay in touch soon.
Yes.
No negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Just in the game of life, mindset calls the shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be distracted. I stay on my grind, no time to be slacking. I hustle hard, I go against the